Welcome everybody to Epic Experiences. I am your host, Sinitra Skillerns. Remember, Epic stands for encouraging people, inspiring communities. And here we talk about any and everything. And so this episode is no different. And so today, introduce yourself to the people.
I am Charlie Skillerns. I am the All Credit No Karma guru, a little bit of educator, and community builder, culture keeper.
Yeah, look at that. All the things. I didn't even have to prompt and say listen, we ready.
See skills and see skills.
I mean. So if you didn't notice the name, same. We are family.
Yeah.
Both married into the Skillerns family, but still Skillerns nonetheless. And so today, the working title, I always talk about working titles, of this episode is going to be called Street Cred. Street Cred, because we're going to be talking about financial literacy.
Yes.
Credit, because credit is epic. It can be epic depending on the connotation. It can be epically good, epically bad.
Epically bad.
We're gonna just talk about that. And particular, I think, to our community.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying? Like that's Absolutely. I think we can name that.
Absolutely.
And then segue into some education. We ebb and flow here.
We ebb and flow
at Epic Experiences. So where we land is where we land, and we just unpack all the things.
Absolutely.
Yep. And so to start off, I got my little notes here, but this is just a guide.
Come on.
And so, I've watched your videos on IG, and we can get into all your handles and where you are. At the end to tell people how they can hook up with you. But like this thing you have with what is All Credit No Karma.
All Credit No Karma.
All Credit No Karma. Is that new? Like, did it birth out of something? I want to go back to, I believe, how we are as adults, credit wise and financial literacy wise, starts when we're young. And so when you were younger, what was the conversation or what was the environment like around financial literacy or credit, if there was one?
There was none.
Okay.
There was no financial literacy other than, you're going to college, you're going to do this, don't get any credit cards. It was immediately, don't do this, don't get any credit cards, make sure that, use the debit card, you do this, you do that, but whatever you do, stay away from the credit, and that was the kind of landscape that I grew up in, unfortunately, because I think that my parents just didn't know how to manage it the right way. They weren't given the access and the tools that we have now. So my landscape was kind of slim to none. So it was interesting to have to sit up and try and figure out how to navigate through all of that. So it was nothing. And I think a lot of the people that I've come into conversation with say similar and same. Like, I didn't have this when I was growing up. There was no access, there was no knowledge of my rights, there was no knowledge of how I could manage it. And so you go through the trials and tribulations of learning it yourself, which is kind of what birthed All Credit No Karma. Because I was so heavily at one point, we all get on Credit Karma. We all get up there and try and check our scores and stuff. And I realized, like, Credit Karma ain't doing nothing for me. Like, I ain't got nothing here that's helping me. And one day it just hit me, like, that godly imagination just came out. Then it's all credit all the time, constantly, but the goal is not to have any karma, no negative effects, no nothing coming back on you that you got to deal with later, because you have the knowledge, you have that power to be able to assert your rights, and you can move forward in that. So yeah.
So from, landscape of slim, you said, and same with me, there was no discussion. Like, when I went off to college, nobody said anything to me about it. And so I'm talking about ignorant.
Just listen.
The true definition of ignorant, I didn't know.
Didn't know nothing.
And there was nothing. Yeah. And so you learned the hard way.
Yeah.
And so as a young adult, when you went off to college with that don't, did you listen?
No. No, I did not listen, because at first I remember it was a Chase Bank who was sitting in like our little student area, and it was Navy Federal who was sitting out there. Strangely enough, And they were, giving out information to the students and this, that, and the other. You can get this credit card, you can do this, this, and that. And so here I go applying and strangely enough, get like a $20,000 line of credit.
Wow.
Well, walking into college as a freshman, you like, well, I got this money, I'm about to spend it. But ignorant to how you spend it, ignorant to what you do, and you come to a point now where it sits in that $5 sweater, $10 sweater, $5 cup of coffee that you bought, you paying $300 for down the line.
Yeah.
And so no, I was never able to really regain that. I went through my 4 years of college being ignorant to what I was getting into financially. Where so much so at a young age, I went through a bankruptcy because I thought it was the only other thing to get me out of what I was doing, because I was able to get these credit cards and do and get and spend up limits to where now you're looking like, oh well, I don't know what to do now, and everybody is calling. But I think the beauty of going through the bankruptcy was the birthing of being able to have a knowledge and understanding that we never had to go through that in the first place. If you learn how to manage and know your rights, especially with credit cards, you can get your way to maintaining your money the right way, but also inserting your rights the right way. You don't know how much they kind of they breach the contract that's there. They breach the contract, and so yeah, out of that births all of what I've been dealing with recently, and especially like inserting my rights the right way.
Yeah, and we're gonna get into that.
Yes.
That right there, knowing your and not being ignorant to the right, like, and we're talking about not the slang, you ignorant. No, the literal sense of the word ignorant, and not knowing.
Yeah.
And how industry capitalizes on us not knowing.
True.
If you don't know, bet.
Yeah, no problem. I got you.
Literally.
You mine.
Yes. Literally got you. And so you're talking about pitfalls, like getting this, you whatever teen years old and getting $20,000 worth. You're like balling, like drinks on me, this on me, that's on me, lunch on me. I'm not going to the studio. What food plan?
That's right.
Food plan who?
I don't need it.
I can go sit down and have a whole server at whatever restaurant I want to.
Yep, you're right.
But then the bill comes, you like, ooh,
what do you do with it?
Right.
Yeah, that pitfall. I think the pitfall for me came like right before I got out of college, and I went to swipe my card, and that card was not moving, nothing. It was a decline. I was like, no, something. I paid a little something on it. No, you ain't doing enough. The decline came, and then you like, what do I do now? And I guess that was the breakdown where I had to go back to my mother and confess, like, okay, so this is what I did. This is where I am. What do I do? Again, not having the generational skill set of knowing how to manage. Her first initial conversation with me is too, like with my friends as well, is you may want to consider doing bankruptcy. You may want to consider it allows you a new landscape, a new horizon. I'm like, okay, well, that's what we need to do. Talking with friends and things who, were mentoring me at that time too, was all in the same boat. Yeah, that's what you got to do.
Same.
And unfortunately, again, it puts you really in that pitfall for 5+ years until you realize, like, I can not finesse your way out of it, although there are ways, but that's not what we talk about.
Right.
Okay, we really want to have a knowledge now of responsibility with our finances, and that in itself, getting into that and learning that you didn't have to go through it was a biggie for me. It was a biggie for me. So no, never have to go through bankruptcy if you know what you need to do with your credit.
Right. And a couple of things, like in my family, like I know my mother, she went through bankruptcy at least, from my knowledge, 4 times. But it was the same. It was rinse and repeat. It was like you get out of the bankruptcy, you get a flood of all these offers, and you sign up again.
Yeah.
And you don't have you talked about the responsibility part. Because like, right, I got a new lease, but my mother, at that point, didn't own a car, didn't own a home. It was literally credit card debt she was putting into bankruptcy.
Rinse and repeat.
Yes. Yeah. And so that part, and so me seeing that, and and I didn't go through a bankruptcy, but my pitfall and that, cause same thing, college, credit cards, this and just Macy's and all. You go, oh, I can go buy a Coach purse, I can do all these things. But my pitfall was it just going into collections.
Yeah.
Which still damages your credit. Like it's still, that still happens.
Yeah.
And so how do you get out of that? And then that's on your credit for so many years and just all those things. And so, and this came to my mind. It's not on my notes, but I want to ask you about this before we get too far.
Come on.
How do you feel about the credit card consolidation places? Like you can save $835 if you consolidate all your credit cards and pay us this one fee over however many years.
So here's how I feel about consolidation. I do think it is a serious personal preference. Mm-hmm. However, you have to know the clauses that they're giving you. And when I tell people credit and contracts go hand in hand, they go hand in hand. Mm-hmm. So you want to get into a consolidation, you go right ahead, but you better read that contract. You better know your interest rates. For sure, you need to lower your late payments with consolidation. The good thing about consolidating is that if you are currently in credit card debt and you want to get that utilization down off your credit, you can go into a personal loan consolidation, and it does remove that utilization from your credit, so it doesn't harm you as much. Having a personal loan or a consolidation loan on your report is not going to harm you the same way credit card debt harms you having a high utilization. And when I say utilization, for those of you who are just now getting into your credit, is how much money you have collectively on each card. Okay, so you may have 10 and 10. You got $30,000 worth of credit utilization, and if you're using all 30, you're gonna have a high utilization. Okay, you can take that and you can push that into a personal loan. So that is about the time I say it's good for you, but you have to know your interest rates. You got to know, is it worth it for me to do this versus calling a credit card company and asking them what they can do for you first, and seeing if their interest rate is much better than the consolidation rate that you are being offered.
And so more times than not, because I have a friend that went through, and I think it was like 4 years, they shut your cards down.
Yeah, they will. So once you put it in, they're gone. It again depends on the reporting and stuff, but they gone. Meaning you can't use. You can't use them. Yeah. No, they gone. They gone, sis. It's over. So y'all are using them cards somewhere. But it does help to kind of, that's the best way I can say, is that the credit utilization goes down. It's really at that point when you want to get into the nitty gritty of it and what they're reporting on your credit report.
But then you have to follow it.
Yeah.
Like making sure, and sometimes when you talk about things like Credit Sesame, Credit Karma, those things, they give you a certain level of view. But then if you want to go deeper and know more, you have to pay.
Yeah. Yes and no.
Yes and no.
So yes and no. Here's the thing about Credit Karma, Credit Sesame. They show what's called a Vantage score.
Yeah.
And a lot of people know that there's a difference between a Vantage score and a FICO score. And your Vantage score is shown a snapshot of like what you're paying, as far as it could be a utility bill. Experian has like the boost you can pay, push a utility bill on there. Yep, and then it boosts it right on up. And you say, oh, that's nice, that's good. But when you go to that FICO score and that Vantage score ain't matching up, you like, well, what's the deal? Because for the most part, if you're going for a home loan or a car loan, things of that nature, they're always using your FICO and your Vantage score with smaller things like store cards and tier 3 cards, things like that, will be something that they'll go through your Vantage score on. But the difference is that you can get your full report, and now they've changed it where you can get a full report every 7 days. Now, if we're talking about credit score, if you want your score, I'm going to tell you your score is not as important as your data. And a lot of people often want to lean into, I need to know what my score is. No, you need to know what your data is. Okay,
because that's your pay history.
That is all your pay history. That's all your account information. Because once you look at you can get your score, but your score is not going to tell you much. You know, you got to look at credit like you trying to, you know, show them a book, okay? And you can go through that first little, you know, preface and everything. That's going to be your score, but it's not going to tell you much about the book. You need to go deeper in reading the pages of what's on there so that you can go bit by bit and see what's inconsistent, what's inaccurate, what's incomplete, what you need to correct. Yeah. So yeah, you definitely get your annual credit. So annualcreditreport.com.
One's free.
I give it to you every 7 days now.
Where?
Annualcreditreport.com.
It's no longer, because I only go once a year.
You can go every 7 days if you want to. Congratulations, you know. There you go.
Thank you. Look at that.
Annualcreditreport.com.
So the price of admission, y'all, you just learned it every 7 days on annual credit. Is it .org or
.com?
.com.
Every 7 days you can get your full data report after COVID, because they had scams and identity theft go up. And so they allow you to do it every 7 days. You can go on there and grab it every single 7 days if you want to. Okay. It used to be once a year.
Once a year. Get all 3, look, scrub it down, look, and all the other stuff. And
it used to be once a year.
And but during COVID and number time, that's when I really started like digging in. I was looking at subscriptions, like how can we save money here? Let's change our like all of these things, and really taking a look at it. And saying like, hey, I need to dispute this isn't accurate, and just kind of looking at it, but still it can be overwhelming.
It is.
And it can be some fear in there, because it's like, you know what, it's just little old me, and it may feel like if I have to go to the credit card to the credit bureau, it sounds so official. Credit bureau,
I know, and I'm not official at all.
And they can just tell me, like, get away from me, like, no, what it says there is, and that's it, you know, and then you're just kind of stuck with what they say, and then that reports out all over the place. And I have something. When I got my car 2 years ago, I got 1 more year left on my lease, and we have been riding this credit, looking at it, keeping up all the things, and there's 3, and so I went and I had looked at all 3 of them. Well, which one is? There's one that's always lower than the other one.
So Experian is gonna usually between Experian and Equifax are usually gonna be the lower end because they're harder to get up.
Okay. So,
usually.
Which again boggles my mind, because if all of my things are on all 3, how can that be? And so we go, and when we got my car, they use the lowest of the 3 to get the lease.
Yeah.
And so we couldn't get the tier 1 or top tier whatever rate. And so I'm looking at it, and I'm like, and still to this day, like, if the woman is still there when I turn my car in, I'm gonna ask for another finance manager, because I literally felt like she screwed us.
She tried.
Because I'm like, could I, as a consumer, could I have said, well, here are my 3. Do you have to use this one? Now, of course, if I ask that, she's gonna say yes. But I'm like, it's their discretion to do that. But then I feel like that's not fair. But again, that's me. That's little me on this side.
I know. How deep do you want to go?
I mean,
okay. All right. So I'll say this. Because we can be here for 2 hours. I don't want to do that to you. It can get deep. I will say, on that one situation, here's the thing. What I tell people about being a consumer is that you always have the ability as a consumer to suggest anything. You could have said, hey, why are you using this score versus using this score? You could have easily said, hey, I prefer for us to take a look at these scores to see what we can do. And diving again, we'll stay at the top. We'll stay at a high level here. But there are other laws in place that allow you to say, hey, as a consumer, I have the discretion for you to at least look at this and look at this information to make sure that we're making
the best
decision on my behalf.
Okay. And then as a consumer, I could have just undone the deal and left.
You could have said no.
I could have said no. Give me back I'll take my Toyota and just
I'm
go back
good
to
for
where I
that.
was.
I'm good for that. I just made a dealer upset on a deal about 2 months ago. He had, and it was for somebody, I won't say who it was, but it was for somebody. Walked in and I noticed the deal and I looked at the paperwork and I said, nope, this is too high, and I know it's too high, and I know that these people can get it down the street at a lower rate. Well, their credit is this. I said, I understand that, but what you're telling me is that you're not willing to take a look at it. I said, so we're going to get a paperwork back. You take this, and we're going to walk away. And while they don't have people who do that normally, they usually are used to being okay to be strong armed, bullied into into something you can't manage. Yeah. And walked away, and he had a very, very strong attitude toward me. He was very upset and basically shooed me, dismissed me away like I was somebody else. And I said, well, sir, I don't understand. But he said, oh, no, you can be dismissed. I don't need you anymore. Okay. Well, I hope my business is worth it, because I got about 400 people behind me. So you go be great. But yeah, you as a consumer easily able to say.
So that that's
no, thank you.
Yeah, and I said that won't happen. So that stuck with me, because I'm like, man, I didn't say anything, because it still wasn't terrible, but it wasn't
what you wanted.
Yeah, it could. I didn't know if it could have been back. I didn't know if I could have done that thing. And so like, well, now it don't matter, because all I can say is no.
Yeah,
and then I can respond in kind, and then we can move on. Right. And so that part, and so knowing, and it's not. I don't think it's about being cocky at all. But like you said, you used the term several times. Know your rights.
Know your rights.
And being and not wielding it and weaponizing it, but just, hey, we're gonna have a full-throated conversation about this.
Yeah.
And I'm going to state these things, that we can dialogue about it, but I'm not going to blindly sign my life away. Because the Truth in Lending page, help us Lord. Help us Lord.
Listen.
If you ever bought anything,
that Truth in Lending page.
The Truth in Lending
page.
It's
your Truth in Lending for real. You better know it.
After all these payments, here's what you really paying.
What you're paying.
Yeah. And they call it Truth in Lending. Like,
that Truth in Lending.
You sign what you want to, but look at that page and look at after all them, either 36, 48, 72 payments, 360 payments, whatever it is.
That H1 form will have you sitting up there like, oh Lord.
Am I sure?
Are we sure we want to do this?
Right.
You don't ever have to sign. I don't care how much paperwork or how much you put in. You can always say no as a consumer. You can always say no.
That Truth in Lending,
and be confident in it.
Yeah.
Be confident in it. They don't want you to push back. They don't want you to push back.
No. And again, nobody has anything to hide. Like, if we know the transaction, if you're purchasing something, or if you have, and you mentioned, contacting your credit card company, because I think that's the one thing. It's the fear of, I'm thinking about, what I grew up in is, no, I'm just going to ignore it. I'm just going to ignore it. It's over there. I'm looking this way. Yeah. It's right here, but I'm just gonna keep looking this way. And if I don't look at it, it doesn't exist. It's like, and that's also not true.
You better deal with it while you still can. And the thing about it is, you made a statement about like, okay, I want to contact the credit bureaus, and then they send me this information and say that it's verified. Are y'all ready? Because I'm about to drop some game for real.
Come on. I'm ready. I'm ready.
So the biggest thing I always got defeated on, and this was, I guess, another one of the pitfalls that I hit to get me to the point I am now, in the confidence I have now, I should say, was I called the credit bureaus, and I'll never forget her name or who I called. It was TransUnion. And right before I really got into all of the credit laws and knowledge and stuff, I remember calling them and asking them, like, hey, I see this is not accurate. I actually made a payment the last 2 months on this vehicle, but it's not showing. It's showing as I missed the payments. She's like, oh no, it's verified, it's accurate, because it looks like you tried to dispute it before. I said, well, I didn't get anything that said that it was verified. I also didn't get any information that proves the verification. Oh, well, there's nothing else we can do. And she hung up on me. And at that point in time, I was not confident in anything. So I thought that what she had was accurate. And what I learned is you actually want that verification letter. And you also have to understand that a verification letter is legal. Like, that is a process and reasonable procedure that they have to go through to say that we verified it with account level documentation. They have to be able to show you the level of verification, what they went through, who they talked to. You can ask for that information. You can ask them, who did you talk to, when did you talk to them, and what's the address you talked to them at. And at that point in time, they are mandated to provide to you the account level verification to say whether or not they've gone through reasonable procedures to verify your information. And that is generally how a lot of my clients now get to what they need, because if you can't verify it per what's called the Fair Credit Reporting Act, it actually has to be gone.
Wow.
I know, it's a lot of information.
But no, I mean, that's why this is recorded. Folks can rewind. What she
Pause,
say? What's
rewind,
happening?
go back.
What I need to do?
I know.
Because this is powerful. Again, not to weaponize it, not to get, get out of anything, but, the credit bureau is made of people who run the systems.
Yeah.
And mistakes happen. And mistakes, and then the lenders that you borrowed from are also full of people.
Yep.
And so in the event that mistakes are happening, we're not talking about scamming, we're talking about legitimate mistakes that impact your life, who you are, from a credit, because as lovable as we are, people don't know us. They looking at us on a piece of paper. And to have that, right, and to have it be accurate is important. And so how often should people, I know it's every 7 days you can pull it, but good Lord. Realistically, for the folk that, work, go to school, have family, whatever, how often should you be looking and tracking and looking at your data and your statements?
I'm gonna be honest. For me, in my opinion, you really need to be looking at it either once every 2 months, or once a quarter.
Okay, that's fair.
Because it allows you to keep up with identity theft. It allows you to also keep track of your payment histories and everything that's coming through. And inaccuracies with personal information and all this other stuff. You just never know with credit, especially if you're not somebody who's really always aware of it. I would definitely pull it once every 2 months or once every quarter for sure. But I always say, if you are in that spot to where you're below a 500, I would say even a 580, then now is the time to take a year and focus strictly on your credit. Take a full year. Sometimes it won't take that long, but if you're not somebody who knows how to follow up quickly, keep a good timeline, you may have to be redoing and doing some things over again. Give yourself a year to redo your credit.
I remember the first time I ever took this journey of we gonna get our credit together. That statement. Yeah. Let's get our credit together. Get it together. And this is back when I don't even remember how I got the credit report. I may have to have a mail it to you. This is 20 years ago. More than 20 years ago. And I looked at I may still have this credit report because I don't throw nothing away. That's my problem.
No.
But I actually found all my credits because the address and everything was on there. And I wrote my own settlement letters. I typed them up. I put a check in the letter. This was back when checks was a thing.
Check was a thing.
And I wrote on it, I wrote it somewhere on the check, settled in full or something like. So if they cashed it, out of everybody I wrote, one company sent the check back and did not accept it. Probably had about, this was in my late 20s. Okay. So I think one company said they would not settle for the amount because I told them the check included represented, I don't even know what the percent is, and by cashing this check, we consider it settled in full. Please send me whatever. And every I think out of the 5, 4 of them took it, sent me the letter back, and this and the 4th, and then one sent it back. I said, well, I try again later. But I mean, 0 versus.
That's on you, sir.
Yeah, that's on you.
That's on you, baby.
Right, but to do that, and I felt so good. I was like, man, it actually, and I probably read something or saw something to do that, and it's like, well, I'm gonna try it because taking the time to say, I really want to do this and get it together type deal. But it's a never ending story. Even if you have, great, and I remember back in the day, 600 was like top tier.
Top tier, yeah.
And now the needle has moved to 800, 810,
850.
You know, it's moved, and so it's like, man. But you just think, why is that?
That you have a level of.
Why do they move it?
Oh, you know what though? I think it was a lot that went into moving that, because now, even looking back at the data over the last year for the United States, the average credit score in the last year was the highest that it's ever been in the last, I should say, 3 years, was 714. The highest it's ever been. So the reality is that, and here's me being, kind of skeptical, that everybody can't go. Everybody can't have it.
Yeah.
Okay?
Yeah.
Everybody can't have this 800, this 750, this 720. We gonna move the needle. We're gonna push it so that there are more for you to have to gain and get to. So that's maybe the skeptical.
Probably some truth in that,
I'm sure. I'm sure.
So
they push it up and push it up and push it up every so often, and then they change all the FICO scores every so often, certain models and things every few years.
Yeah.
Because they keep you on your toes.
Yeah, and that's it. and being versed in it, and really, I mean, at the core of it, pay back what you use.
Yeah. You pay back what you use.
Pay back what you use, but also in that, and we can talk about this real quick, for credit cards, we talk about credit cards in particular, statement date versus payment date.
Yes.
When I started learning about that, I was
like, versus your payment date, your actual due dates, and understanding, like, you got to make those phone calls. And even when you're calling into your credit cards and asking for statement dates, I've known them to give people a hard time. Like, now they don't want to give out statement date
because
information
people are
people are hip to it. And you can always get that increase when you want to pay on your statement date, versus your actual due date for your credit card. It's very easy.
I had a friend that she would use, and she's 11 years older than me, so when I was in my late 20s and she was already in her 40s, and she would talk like this, I was like, what is this Spanish you speak of me? Speak to me. And she would say, okay, what's today's date? She's like, okay, if I use my credit card today and then it close on this date, I ain't gotta pay this next cycle. It's 2 cycles.
It's 2 cycles.
I said,
you got like a cycle and a half or so before you gotta start paying again.
What?
Yeah.
And she was like, yeah, and I was like, talk slow. I'm like, hold up, but just her know, because she had studied, she knew statement date versus due date, and how to pay it off and still pay it off with no interest and all of those things. And I'm like, okay,
it's necessary. It's necessary.
If you're trying, like you said, grow grow your credit card limit, which that's I used to say when I would go into a retail store. This is when I had taken care of everything, and I was like, I have 0 balances. There's no, and they'd be like, "Would you can save 10%." I used to be like, "I'm allergic to debt."
I'm allergic to debt.
And like, what? I was like, it makes me sick.
There is, because it does. You sit up there, and when I learned that there is good debt and there is bad debt. There is that good debt where I don't mind paying for education. I'll come out of my pocket for a student loan and do that, and then there's that bad debt that takes you even more into debt. Those credit cards with high interest and those predatory credit cards, things like that with Merrick Bank and Credit One, credit cards that get you even more into debt than what you wanted to do. You got to be really conscious about what debt you want to get into. And again, if you're not ready to put the skin in the game in order to get yourself out, don't do it.
Yeah.
Don't do it.
Good God. And it's so enticing, and they know it. They know it's enticing.
It's true. It's true. I always say you pay your credit cards back. At the same time, don't let them get over on you. I tell a lot of the people that have come to me in the past about something. Okay, here's some more games. So get your pen and your paper out. It's called an arbitration clause. And arbitration clause in certain credit cards push credit card companies to have to notify you first before they close an account. Notify you before they're able to send it to a debt collector. It starts to become more of a breach of contract, but because again we don't consider credit and contract to go hand in hand, we often overlook these small clauses that cause us more success.
And are on the back of your statement,
probably. Yeah, they're on your statement. Usually they put it in your initial paperwork.
Okay,
and you can find it anytime you go on their website. They have to make those consumer agreements readily available to you at any given time. And those credit card companies got those arbitration agreements in those so that you don't read it. You're not going looking for it. No, but when you need it, and arbitration really is more of a mediation before it gets to like litigation and civil, where you have to go file a lawsuit. But you can easily say like, hey, you put this clause in here for arbitration, and I see that you're reporting on my credit the wrong way. I've tried to figure this out with you multiple times. You said that you verified it with the credit card company, but I have no proof of this. So guess what? I'm ready to go to arbitration. I'm ready to find this out and do a mediation with ARB versus going to a lawsuit. And what they'll tell you is that they generally have to go to arbitration first before you move forward in a lawsuit or before they try and sue you for that debt.
Wow.
A lot.
So
yeah.
It's a lot, but it's you said
necessary.
And you said it early on, knowing your rights. Knowing your rights. And so let's get into some fun stuff. Okay. What are some fables and myths about credit that you had, or that people who've come to you, or just things that you have experienced as fables and myths about credit?
Fables and myths. I think the most recent myth that I've seen is that on TikTok. So they got this thing on TikTok now where they'll tell you the Fair Credit Reporting Act was created, in the last few years, and this is something that is automatically set to remove anything off of your report that's older than 2 years old. It's a complete myth, a complete fable. Like, nothing about that is true. Nothing about it is true. The Fair Credit Reporting Act was actually created back in like the 1960s, 1970s. And it was not created initially for us. It was created for the lenders and users of those reports to have, I said it earlier, reasonable procedures over your data. Because even before then, you go back a little bit, when they were doing pen and paper, they were sending out information, but they were erasing and changing your data so that, you had higher interest rates, or you needed to pay this off sooner than you knew that it needed to be done. So they put in place, Congress put in place reasonable procedures, and that turned into the FCRA, Fair Credit Reporting Act, for them to be able to manage your data safely, in confidence, to be accurate, to be complete, and to not be, so messy what they were doing before. So, wow. Big myth, very big myth.
Wow.
I don't know. I think the other big myth I've seen recently, and somebody actually sent me a message about, was that your credit history actually didn't matter as much. And I thought that to be extremely strange, because your payment history is almost beyond 30 to 40% of your credit score. Especially as you get higher into like the 800s or even 750s to 800s, you actually get dinged more for payment history than you do when you're having a 500 or 600. It will drop your score if you're late once or twice more than 100 points. I know. So the higher you get, again, the more responsibility they put on you, the more they make it harder for you to stay up there.
More credit, more problems.
Yeah, more credit, more problems. More credit, more problems. That's
oh my God.
So definitely some fables and some myths there.
Wow. I'm trying to think if there's any that I had. Maybe not anything specific, but definitely along the lines of just like schemes, like the goal being just remove this off my credit. Like, people that think that my goal is to like take this off, and it's like by any means necessary, and it's like you fall for these I don't want to call them schemes, but you fall for these things or these tactics to, just get
it off your report.
Yeah.
So, I had a client, somebody did a consult with me, probably about a year ago or so, and they just wanted this stuff removed off their report. And the type of person I am, I'm going to ask you 1,000,001 questions to make sure everything that I have is accurate. And they were like, well, can't you just file what they call a FTC report, which is just what the Federal Trade Commission. And a FTC report generally comes into play when you're pulling on identity theft. Well, a lot of these credit card or credit repair companies that were in people's faces a lot of time, $750 a month, $200 a month to get your credit fixed for the next 6 months, were just filling out these false identity reports and then sending them out. And at one point in time, this person didn't want to deal with me and their patients, so they went to a credit repair company. They filed their FTC report. It got removed. It did. Everything went off of their report. And then they got a phone call. And they were notified about how fraudulent they were and making sure that they cleaned their credit report with an identity theft report. So I stopped touching that. And a lot of people still do it to this day. And some people say, oh, that's not true. No, it's completely true. I just watched another girl do it off of millions of people's credit, and she got cuffed. You can't do that.
You're filing false identity theft reports.
You're filing false identity theft reports. And again, I'm going to be the first person to tell you, I want anything off a report just like the next guy. But filing FTC and then dealing with the federal prison is just not something I want to do. It's like,
you're taking a gamble.
You're taking a huge gamble.
Because they may sift you and find you, they may not.
They may not. But you're right. You may get off clean and it'll be perfectly fine.
Why take the chance?
It's not worth it. It's not worth it. So definitely don't believe anybody who's doing credit sweeps, okay, and sending your information out for, a fraudulent identity theft, and then pushing that out the door.
So so let's say if I went to someone and I paid them and they fill it out and do that, does that fall back on me for fraud or the person whose name is on that?
Technically, it doesn't. If they did it the right way, technically it won't fall back on you, because generally you're supposed to be giving power of attorney to the person, a limited power of attorney to the individuals taking care of your credit report and speaking on your behalf if they're doing it the right way. A lot of people sometimes will come back and say, they never gave me a limited power of attorney. I never signed anything for you, and they were just sending it out for me. And that can become, again, fraudulent. If they're doing it the right way, it shouldn't fall back on you. If not, then you may be getting a phone call.
Yeah, either way.
You may be getting a phone call.
Yeah, there's the pathway, the straight, and then there's the pathway, that's crooked.
Yeah. Credit is something you got to be patient on. It's not supposed to be a quick turnaround. If you're not sitting for at least 60 days, unless something miraculous is happening, and by all means, I have a lot of miraculous stuff happening. But at the same time, it's going to take you. You got to plan to have this out for at least 30 to 45 days. Be patient.
Right.
Take your time.
Because in the grand scheme, like, I'm at a point right now where I'm like, what else we buy? We have a home. You know what I'm saying? Like, I would love to find a car that I could just pay off and drive until literally the wheels fall off. That don't exist for real. You can get a lot of miles out of it depending on what you buy. I was like, but I don't like dealing with it.
I know.
It's just a headache. It is.
I agree.
Yeah. So you really just want to, you're right. If once a quarter, pull it, let's sit down, let's look at it, is everything right, everything cool, the payment history look good, okay, if it's not, we need to dispute, like making those decisions and just kind of making it a standard thing.
It is.
Because knowing that now, like, again, I get the notifications, like, I think I got one of them that sent me the email. I got the free thing, and I can look at the Vantage score, and I think Capital One has the Credit Wise.
They got Credit Wise, yeah.
Yeah, Credit Wise and stuff like that. But I think it's connected to TransUnion. And so seeing that, and and sometimes you just get the heart palpitations, like,
I know.
you know, like, well, why I go down 3 points? For what? And you look
like, oh, it changes just irregular. That doesn't matter. It's okay. You're like something happened.
Yeah, you're like, right.
Something happened.
I'm like, and then
what happened?
Then it go up 6 points the next month. I'm like, what? But I
ain't bought nothing. I ain't did nothing. I paid. What you want?
I know, but that's what I'm saying. Like, the once you get in there, you start knowing, and then you can hyper focus.
Oh yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And it's like every 2 seconds,
but
it's. And I'm like watch the stock market. I'm like, it's not.
I know.
But you just want to make sure that they're natural fluctuations.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
And 6 to 10 points is natural fluctuation. Like you're gonna constantly see it ebb and flow, and again it's gonna ebb and flow. Even if you get higher and higher of a credit score, it's gonna move even more. It's credit.
Yeah.
Like don't plan on being perfect. Nobody needs to plan on being perfect. I say the only score you really need to get to is a 700 and you're good. You can pretty much do whatever you want to do with a 700 score and you are fine. 680, really. You get to a 680, you got what you need and you will be able to move forward. Your interest rates might be a little bit higher than you want to, but you're going to get what you need and you're going to be all right.
Good advice. Good advice. So when we get into talking about credit, what are and I said 3 because I just like to pick 3. But top 3 musts. Like what must you do? You know, if we're talking about having, you know, responsible street cred, like top 3 musts for a consumer.
Top 3 musts for a consumer dealing with their credit.
Mm-hmm.
Like financial responsibility must, or do you?
Let's go there.
So financial responsibility must for me is first, again, pull your report. It sounds simple. It really is the biggest thing that you can do. Okay. Pull your report and do what I call a credit audit. Okay, that is imperative. Take your highlighter, get your red pen, get your black pen, whatever's gonna make you feel comfortable. And the first goal of a consumer when you're starting this off to be most efficient is just to start circling inaccuracies, things and places you see that you have a question about, okay, that doesn't really fit everything that you've done in the last like 30 plus days. The next thing for being a consumer with making sure your credit is either right or get right, I have to say I go right back into what I talked about earlier. Pull out the FCRA. It is going to be the first thing that you need to start learning, and take it bit by bit. I know for me, it was overwhelming. You get this law book and you looking like, what am I reading? How much, how do I even apply some of this stuff? It's a lot to learn, but it's so necessary for not just here, but you don't realize how much it bleeds into other things. Especially dealing with like debt collectors too. The FCRA really gives you a foundation and understanding how they're supposed to be handling your information. And when you know what they're supposed to do, then you can hold them accountable for doing it the right way. But if you don't know, how can you hold them accountable for the information that you're seeing? Other than saying, oh, it's wrong, and I know it's wrong. Well, how? Help. I think the last thing and understand is get yourself a credit monitoring service. It's imperative, even if you do it for 6 months. If this is the time you're taking to learn your credit and understanding what you want to do, get a credit monitoring system. I'm not affiliated. I'm about to tell y'all something, and none of them are paying me, okay? But Identity IQ is definitely one of those that you need to get connected to. It is the most efficient. It will be the most, like, readable. Is that a word? Yeah, sure. We'll be able to read it. Versus some of the other, cheaper versions of that often don't look as clean and don't give you a consistent consistent data points. So definitely those are my top 3 things for sure.
That sounds clear cut. Can't give you
Clear
too much now.
cut,
Bite size.
Bite size, and don't overwhelm yourself because the FCRA is overwhelming. But when you learn it and you know it, the beautiful thing about this is no matter it is a part of Congress that has been put in place that is not moving. And it's not going anywhere. This law is not going to change. You're not going to automatically just take this away. This is in place, and it's going to be there forever. It's federal code, and this is a codified law that is never going to leave. So definitely something that you need to learn. And the FDCPA, the Fair Debt Collection Practices Act, because we all deal with debt collectors.
FCRA and
FDCPA.
All right, now pause. Rewind. Write that down. I'm gonna write that down because I know that second one.
The FDCPA. Yeah, when you know you got debt collectors at your door, it's the easiest way to deal with them too.
Okay, right.
Absolutely.
Because that's important. Instead of saying, "Quit calling me."
Can't quit calling me.
So.
Uh-oh.
No.
She chuckled.
No, not in that way. But in looking into this, like, are there any biblical foundations around financial literacy? Ooh. I know that's why I chuckled. I'm like, because this is like a.
This is good.
Yeah, where are we going? I mean, there's, and depending on, because not, I don't know about, what no credit cards in biblical times. You had your goats and rams and lambs and your
yes.
probably barter system. There's a lot happening back then. But if we think about, because here's where my brain is, and if folk not here, they may not get what I'm about to say.
Come on.
But I find that the health, my financial literacy / health is better when I am tithing.
So that's exactly where I went. I was debating on where I wanted to go for, like, what scripture do I actually want to pull on first with tithing. But for those of you who aren't as biblical, I don't want you to tune out. So maybe I won't go to the word jit. But that 10% when you come to tithing and you're giving is so imperative because we expect we get stingy.
Ooh.
We get stingy and then we get greedy.
Ooh.
And then you try and think, Lord, why are you not blessing me the way I thought you said you was gonna bless me, but your hand out, but you ain't put your hand in your pocket yet to give that what God gave to you back over to Him. All He asking is for 10%. 10%. That means you get the whole 90% of what you got. Who does that?
The government sure don't do it.
No. Ain't nobody else doing that. Say, here, you just pay us 10% and you can keep the 90. No, not in a partnership nowhere.
Because SCRS take 14.
Listen.
Good educator,
or
they're
not taking
they
that.
work, peers, SCRS.
They taking a lot out your pocket every week.
Every pay.
So yeah, that 10% also allows us. And just realize I won't go too far because I get far along with this. The 10% also allows us to be good stewards over what we're able to keep.
Right.
And if you can't steward over giving away the 10%, how can God give you that increase that you're asking for in this great work? How can God give you the increase in your salary and your pay to be able to pay off this credit card if you can't manage the small things that I gave you, the small things that He's given over, and you're like, oh, well, I know, Lord, I'll give you 5%. Okay. It's not so much about what you give, it's generally how you give it.
Yeah.
Like, give with a cheerful heart. You give that over and watch God continue to bless. Liz, not begrudgingly. You hold on to that, and you're like, oh, well, Lord, I'm going to give you this 10%, but I don't like it. Oh, well, you might as well keep it. Okay.
Yeah.
So I think that's my official take on biblical steward. It really is being a good steward over what God has given you.
We we won't get into the story about the talents.
Listen,
we'll say
gifts and talents. Oh, we can go far. We should have started here.
Well, you know, when they got the servants got the different talents, and then they came back and said, "What'd you do with them?" Yeah, so we gonna say that story.
Yeah, put a pin in that.
Yeah, put a pin in it.
Put a pin in that. We'll come back to that.
We'll come back to that. Yeah, because that's a whole lot.
Well, how do you feel?
So, well, I said when the ship is right and it's righted. But I always go, of course, Malachi.
Yeah.
When I go there, and it's the 3 parts. It's the bring, it's the test, and then, you know, and he'll keep the devourer away. So it's like those 3 things linked together.
Yeah.
So if I bring the offering, bring the tithe into the storehouse, so there can be meat in this house. And then he says, test me and see that I will not open up the windows of heaven and pour out a blessing that you will not have room enough to receive it. Now, that part, the flesh in me always goes to money. Always goes to, well, if I do this, then when you open the window, Lord, you're going to pour out all this money. I ain't going to have no room to receive it. But then I was like, you also have to think about health in your body.
Yep.
You also have to think about, you know, the blessing over your family. You always have to think about, you know, joy. You think about other things. And I have to point my brain in to have different perspective. Because, yes, you want to be able to just, I don't want to have a budget. Which ain't realistic. But I
don't want to have no budget either.
Right. I just want to be able to go. Let's do it. It's endless. But come on now. That's not real. And so, not for most of us. And so, I have to have a different perspective. Like, I have an income. Like, I do. And I have a responsibility over this income. Am I great with it? Not all the time. Like, it ebbs and it flows. Like, sometimes I'm way better with it than not. And so, I have a book. And this is so old school, but I don't care.
Oh, come on.
I have a count every year. I go into Google Sheets.
Yes.
And I have a calendar. And every month, I type all the bills out on the dates.
Yeah.
And I have a book.
Yeah.
And then I sit down and I write out everything. And that spreadsheet online, it goes with the book. And I'm crossing things off and checking them and highlighting. I do this every month.
Yeah.
On the months I don't do it for busyness or whatever, I'm
Stepped
like,
out.
woo-wee. Yeah, I'm trying to remember. I know this is how. Girl, if you don't get that book.
And that spreadsheet. Get you a financial planner. Ain't nobody holding that against you. Get you a financial planner.
And what my thing is, whatever works for you.
Yeah.
Whatever it is. And some people can put in the QuickBooks and Quicken and all that and put all that stuff in, and that works for you. Fine.
Do it.
But whatever it is, to have some sort of system.
Yeah.
Because we everywhere, all over the place. Like
all the time.
The money is going in and out like water. Like it's just.
Especially now in this economy, like it's always going to be fast moving, and we're always going to be wanting to hoard our money. But man, when God says, "Oh, I gave you 90%. What did you do with it? Yeah. Did you squander it? Did you squander the 90 that I gave you?
I might have.
How can I? I just want to get. You want more, but you can't even handle what I gave you.
And that's the thing. That's the.
I know and I had to counter a reality for myself, is that I'm greedy. It's flesh, it's true, and while people don't want to say, I'm not greedy. No, I'm greedy, and I know it. And I still got my hand out. Lord, I gave 10%. So,
right,
you gonna help me with this next bill? What you gonna? No, guess what? I gave you food. I gave you water. Your child got to school. Your husband got to work. Guess what? You got everything back and then some.
And that's that perspective. That's the perspective. We have such tunnel vision when it comes to money. We have such, and it's like, I work, so this is mine. Okay. Okay. You keep thinking that, and it's like, Lord, I don't want no spanking. Not in this area.
Not in this area. No.
No.
Don't take it away from me.
Mm-hmm.
I will give cheerfully. I will run down that aisle. Okay. I will be on Givelify happily at 2:00 in the morning whenever a paycheck hit. Whatever you need me to do, I will not be here to look at my paychecks and be like, well, I'm gonna get rid of it all. Right. Test that one. That one's faithful.
Oh,
no,
Lord.
I don't want that. I don't want that testimony.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to go back to that biblical time. Test him and see what happens. Nope.
No, thank you.
No thanks. Appreciate it. I don't want to be. A Job would be. You leave that right there.
I'll just read about Job and say, thank you for inspiring me, Lord.
No,
have you considered my servant Job?
Don't consider me.
I'm not Job.
I don't want to be Job.
No, thank you.
Pass.
Super pass. No thanks.
Do not test me.
I know, right?
Do not test me.
A couple episodes ago, I had one of my educator friends on, and the title of the episode was "If Only."
Okay.
And so we got to just imagine it, like, if we could do this in education, what would it look like? If we could do that in education, what would it look like? And so I have an "if only" portion here.
Okay.
And I know some high schools do it.
Mm-hmm.
They actually have a financial literacy class.
Mm-hmm.
But my if only moment for us is what role should financial literacy play in our schools? And at what level? Like when?
When?
Mm-hmm.
I think the earlier the better. My pastor was just talking about how early she started off her son with money. Now it was about, I think, 7 or 8. But giving him a budget every month. Here's what you get for your chores, what you push out, but here's what you also, goes back to what we just said, tithe every month. And if it's not tithing, then it needs to be a budget of saving somewhere. Our kids are working at K-8 school, so we pushed into them financial literacy this year by giving them Monopoly. And so the whole school is a Monopoly themed. That means that you have to count money. You have to do the math. You have to be able to keep a budget. You have to do banking. This is something that is necessary for you, because if you want to go to that vending machine, you better count me out the money that you need in order to get to that vending machine. We push into them as early as, I would say as early as 2nd grade.
Okay.
As early as 2nd grade is when let's start getting that financial literacy out there. And it doesn't have to be this grandiose thing I guess people think about it as. If it's something simple every week that they get to do with, SEL or with their math teacher, you take that and you start to create these, I guess, project-based opportunities where they're getting the community involved now.
Yeah.
And they get their money involved. And now they're able to see and put it to real life scenarios and situations, because they can apply it. It'll stick if you teach them in the classroom, but they'll grow in it if you teach it outside of the classroom. It'll grow with them if you give that application to them to be able to do it and make it relevant for them. And so I think the biggest thing will probably be to start at 2nd grade and on up, and give them something that they can relate to. Give them something that they can relate to, not us.
Right.
They can relate to.
That's it. And when I was in the classroom, I used to do, we used to do, I forgot what it's called, fantasy room something. Something where it was a spreadsheet. They had a budget, and they had to pick a room to decorate and stay within the budget. And so they had to do sales tax, do other things, spend the money, make a whole presentation on it. And I found that they would try to be as frugal as possible, like this money that was left over, I was giving to them. Yeah. But they didn't go super crazy and like spend all of it. But it's teaching them, because they'll be like,
that's my money.
Or they're doing a bedroom, and there's like, a bed costs that much. I'm like, well, where'd you go? Yeah. Where'd you shop? You can look anywhere to buy this bed. And so, like you said, putting the ownership in their hands to be able to, make this room that looks like this and that and whatever, but teaching them, I guess it's the idea value of money, because they don't have it. but it's like if you have this amount of money.
Yeah, they get more of an understanding of it. I think for my 7th graders last year, we gave them a project at the end of the year to do their own travel. They got to go on their own vacation, but they all as a group got a budget, and they got to do the presentation, buy the flights, you know, again making it real life hands-on opportunity for them. Not only a life lesson, but again teaching that value of money. And they have to look for flights for certain days. They have to look for hotels for certain days. You got to budget out how much you're going to spend on food when you get there, how much you're going to spend on transportation. And when they realize, oh, is this what my mom does? Is this what my dad got to do? I said, yeah. That's like, Miss Skillerns, you just did this for your vacation? Yes. Yeah. Yes, I did. And now you can see how much you got left over.
Right.
It makes it very real. Makes it very real for them.
It does.
Makes it very real for them.
And so that part of it, how do you think? I guess at their level, like when should kids start learning? I mean, I know they don't have a credit score when they're like in the 5th grade, but. But when should they start learning about that part of their life? Like, okay, we went off to college knowing nothing. So definitely before we go off to college.
Definitely before college. I think the earliest that I've tried to help my students so far has been like 7th and 8th grade. To become aware of it, not necessarily understand it, but to become aware of what it is and how they can start building on it. Now, I have some kids who were working more into being entrepreneurs. This was last year, so this year they had more of an understanding of how their credit score can affect them being an entrepreneur and building their business or their business credit, and how you can start understanding, you know, the relation between the two. So seventh grade they were very much aware and ready to be engaged in those conversations, after you had been able to relate what it is going to affect, how it's going to affect them at a later time. So I was like 7th grade, 7th, 8th grade,
because it is abstract to them.
Because nobody's gonna be able to physically touch that, and unless your parents are doing some serious shady stuff, you should not have a credit score that young. You should not have a credit score that young. But if your parents happen to be doing something real shady with their electric bill, you may have a credit score. Real early. You may have to look at that sooner than later.
But then ain't that a photo on the people? Like, I'm looking at the birthday and be like,
excuse me, I need to.
What's 12?
Who is this? Like, that's
not 12.
Your shady auntie or uncle. Okay,
somebody doing something wrong.
I know.
And so, having kids at that age, because it's not concrete, it is abstract, but having them, like you say, making them aware that it exists, because at that age, their mind is like, oh, I just want to get money.
It's free. That's it. I just want the money.
I want money. I'm going to be a YouTube phenom. I'm going to be an influencer. I'm going to do these things. But even in that, there's still the word that I'm going to take from the first couple sentences you said. There's responsibility there. And it's not about perfection. It is about, number one, facing it and looking at it, but also knowing, like, what do I do with it?
Yeah.
Because your life can either be really expensive,
or it can be,
it can be manageable. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? You think about, oh my gosh, you paying get a 32% APR on your credit card. That little section would be like this balance. If you pay, this will take you 17 years.
That's right.
If you pay the minimum,
$10,000 credit off. It was only supposed to take you 3.
Right.
But no, I think when the kids came to a realization, I made them also pay for a car at one point. They want to buy their own car. So I had one of my girls look at me and say, Miss Skillerns, you know what? I want a Land Rover. I'm going to have a Land Rover by the time I get into my 2nd year of high school. I was like, okay, great. That's fine. No problem. Let's price one out. I said, what you thinking? She was like, maybe like $6,000, $7,000. I said, excuse me? I said, no. let's go look at that again. Let's go look at that again. Let's pull that up. And to see her say, oh, I'm going to be walking for about the next 10 years. Yeah, you about to be walking for a little while until you can figure that out. Coming to grips with the value of money, the value of math. And I think the other thing to that in education is that we stray away from math because for some of us it's really complex. But we talk about access and equity for our kids, but we can't have access or equity to nothing if we're not understanding the foundations of our math and pushing our kids to be, you know, savvy in how they're dealing with math. But the teachers also got to be ready to deal with the math too. I got teachers who will come up and say, oh, I'm not good at math, I'm not good at this, I'm not good at that. I said, but how can they trust you with their brains and their minds? How can they trust you if you stand up before them and tell them, the person who's teaching the subject, that I'm not good at it? I don't really know. I was never really good at math. But they don't need to know that. You need to be an inspiring mind.
Yes.
And then right now you're not inspiring nobody.
No.
We're inspired to get out and run away.
You've just lowered the bar.
You just lowered
the bar. And they're like, oh, good, I don't have to strive either. And then I can have a job and stand in front of
and be okay.
And I don't know things.
No.
Lord.
Tell them. Let them know that this is something that is going to be difficult. That's that framework, that mindset we got to change. Like, you can do hard things.
Yeah.
It's going to be difficult.
Yeah.
We may not be able to get this right now.
The power of yet.
Yet, right.
Yet, not yet.
But it's coming.
It's coming.
But it starts with our educators first. We got to change our mindsets. Because I know, I'll be honest, like here, I'll tell you, I'm not the best at math. I like money. I like money. But I'm gonna learn this math because I like this money.
Yes.
And especially for our kids. Well, come on, y'all. We gotta do better.
Yes,
we gotta do better.
And especially in the area. And I don't want to use the word struggle, but I look at the education system, and I think, I know it's to teach our kids to think. They don't know how to think. They do. So in that, we can use anything to make them think. And so if we, I think about outside of school building versus inside of school building. And it's not our job to be, we're not entertainers, we're not putting on a show, we're not doing those things. But when you use the term, what they're interested in and on their level and to peak, because it can get a little antiquated.
Yeah, it can.
It can get a little dry.
It can.
And so it's like, to how do I spark you, the project-based learning, the things to have you come in and be engaged in what's happening so that it sticks. Yeah. And so having, something that's laced in, we got literacy. We can learn how we can learn all these phonics, all this spelling, all this writing.
Phonics.
Right. And that ain't explicitly taught no more. I'm sorry. I dated myself. It's okay.
Listen,
but on the other side of, financial literacy, it's also a thing. And them knowing, because not knowing is the disservice.
Yes, that's the detriment.
It is. Them not knowing that, two products right here going off to school and not knowing because who we came from didn't know.
They just didn't know.
They just didn't know.
It's different than not wanting to know.
Right.
Like, they just didn't know. Yeah.
So, the child has a car, our kid. And so, her car started out as a lease. While we got the 18-year-old Elise, I don't know. We tracking them miles like, got the magnifying glass like, listen, you can't be driving here, you can't be driving. These miles are for 2 years, right. So then it was like, okay, we gon' flip it over and just buy the car. It's Toyota, Toyota's whatever. So we flipped it over. So about a month after, she said, so how many miles I got now?
She's looking for him now. She's looking for him
because we've
now.
been on her.
So when you talked about that, it's like we had framed her mind so much to hawk these miles and you can't go over this, do da da da. And now she's like, okay. And she knew the whole, okay, we're telling her we're going to go from this to this and that forth. And so she was like, okay, so what did that increase it to? So I still monitor. And I was like,
I'm trying to get out.
Right.
Okay?
And I was
like, but I'm checking these miles.
Yeah, and I was like, well, now you don't. It's, you still don't want you to drive crazy and run the miles up. I was like, but now it's no longer released. So just educating her in that. So now it's like, okay.
She has a mindset.
She has a mindset. Right. It's like, okay, I'm not bound by this, but she had internalized it. And so that's just teaching her about it. It's like, but we said, when you go in that, the Bowen Thompson Union at the Bowling Green University, and they sitting at them tables saying, come on over, come get this free whatever, and don't you sign your name to nothing. And let me tell you why. Why. You don't have the job or the steady income to go with being able to manage that. Yeah. It's not free money. There's a myth right there for the young people.
It's not free money.
It's not free money.
It's not free money. Because it's going to either follow you. You can not pay it if you want to. Yeah. But it's going to follow you. And especially if you don't know how to deal with them debt collectors, they're going to come find you. And some of them will garnish your paychecks. They will try it. Yeah. So you must know. And you said something so important. We got to tell them why. Because it is no longer acceptable to be able to say, because I said so. Not in this generation. They don't understand that. Because I said so is not acceptable. Because they still pushing up against, well, because you said so don't make it right. One of my kids said, well, Miss Skiller, I know you said so, but I need some more information and some more context as to why, so I know what not to do. I said, oh, excuse me. Okay.
Because we're from the, because
we from
I
that,
said so.
Don't do it. Because I said so. Period. And I think our kids now, they're so intuitive, they're so curious, that you have to give them that. You have to be able to have an explanation for why. So, because they trying to teach somebody else. You like it or not, they trying to teach somebody else what they've learned. And I think our kids, they want discipline. They want structure in financial literacy. They want it in academics as a whole. We don't realize they want that until we actually sit down and have those conversations with them.
Yeah. So, and out of our, I guess us learning from what we didn't have, and they need to know that, even if what the answer is, even if I give you the why, and the answer may still be no. Here's why, but it's still no.
It's still no.
Still can't do it. But you talk about. You can tell me what you think, and at the end of the day, this is the decision, right? And that's the end of it. But the dialogue, because then to have them go out and be informed is the goal, and also the deck is stacked
against them,
and so
ours in particular.
Yes. And so giving our kids a leg to stand on and giving them information, because going out there, and as I tell my 20-year-old, stop listening to TikTok. I've just got a TikTok. Like, I was so anti. I'm not getting on no TikTok. Blah blah. I just went on TikTok, and I have to physically get out of there. You will go down the TikTok rabbit hole.
You look at all kind of stuff.
What? And I'm about to go to the store and make this tonight. What is? I didn't know this existed. Yes, it is a problem, and which is why our kids are so addicted to it.
But it treats you, or it makes you think you know everything.
Yep,
you know, like what did she come home and whatever food thing, and she's like, let's get a jalapeno and put cream cheese and Takis in it. What? That was I don't know how long ago, and I was like, what? And then I tried it, and I was like, why did I try that?
Why did I try this?
TikTok made me try it.
Why did I try this?
Yeah.
Because it does give us the beauty of it is that it gives us access. The downfall of it is that it gives us access.
Right. Exactly.
It's like, this is nice. This is too much. But this is nice.
Right.
This is too much.
Right.
And I know TikTok is, I can't. I'm trying really hard. I've been trying to be consistent, like they say, trying to reach a new audience, but It's rough. It's rough for me. It's rough for me. I can't do the TikTok thing yet. I'm trying.
Yeah,
I'm trying. So if you see me on TikTok, like, go ahead and like it so I can get those 3 likes. Okay.
Right.
We'll get those 3 likes, and we'll keep it pushing.
I know I had Jason saw something one of my TikTok videos. He was like, "Ooh, we get paid off that." Kristen was like, "Dad, like, you realize how?" I said, "Oh, well, you think I'm important? I'm so glad you think these 217 views
are something important.
No, I said I'm important to you, and that's important.
And that's important.
And I said, but you know, I said I do it because it's fun. I was like, I just post it everywhere, and you know, if the Lord blesses
I try. My stepchild is like.
I said,
don't do that.
But I don't know the algorithm. I ain't got time to learn no algorithm.
Stop! Don't do that.
Yeah, just leave it.
Leave that alone.
Stay on IG.
She like stay on Instagram. Stay on Instagram. You tried it, but it's okay. Leave it alone.
Yeah, leave it alone. Get those 3 likes.
I'm like, I'm trying to get all the likes I can get so I can get on the algorithm. It's not liking me though.
Yeah.
Instagram, that's me. That's all me. I can stay there.
That's so fast. Since we talking about social media platforms,
oh sure.
Where can the people find you?
So you can find me at Charlea, CHARLEA, Ricky, RICKI, Credit on Instagram. You can find me on TikTok. Help me with my likes, okay?
That's reluctant.
It's the same. It's Charlea Ricky, CHARLEARICKI on TikTok. I think those are all the platforms I own right now, but very, very heavy in Instagram. Very heavy in Instagram. Yeah. So, I mean...
Is what it is.
Is what it is, y'all.
It is.
Help me with my TikTok.
Yeah, no, or as my husband says, the tiki-taki.
The tiki-taki.
He'd be like, you putting that on the tiki-taki? I was like, how old are you?
Jeez.
I'm like, we are not. Stop that.
We can't be that. We can't be that.
No, we're not.
But yeah, but my goal, I may get 1 or 2 likes tonight.
Mm-hmm.
God bless.
Yeah,
you know, and I'll be killing it if I get that tonight.
Hey, increase. We go increase. Thank you for the increase, Lord. It all matters.
I'm trying.
It all counts in God's economy. It all counts.
You know what? I cannot.
Yes.
I cannot. But yeah,
that's a T-shirt. A lot of T-shirt hashtags and things are birthed on this podcast, and so that's another one. It all counts in God's economy.
It all counts in God's economy. You better put that on your shirt.
I need to. Hold on.
Yeah, you gotta do that. You gotta do that song. Yeah, it's too much out here for you not to do that. You do that without having inventory. No.
Right, but I ain't got no.
See, okay, it's okay. We can talk after this.
Got it. Understood. Okay, we about to end this because that's a good one.
Yeah, that's a good one. Like, you need to do that tonight. Like that's a you do that.
I ain't got. Listen,
we ain't got words tomorrow.
I'm on break. Right, I got space, time, and opportunity.
I'm on break. Yes.
Praise the Lord. Educate. We so spoiled.
I know.
We so spoiled.
That's the one thing I do love about education. I get a break. I get to take a break.
But you need them. Like you.
Yeah.
That's a whole nother conversation.
Okay.
That's okay. But thank you for coming on. Thank you for enlightening us about something that's so important to our community. Just dropping gems all the way. Listen to it, pause it, take notes, but use this episode to inform yourself, to start out getting your healthy street cred and making sure that you are just paying attention to it.
Yeah.
Because the door can either be opened or closed. You know, from something, as I'm gonna say, simple. Not that the act is simple, but the idea is simple. It's like it's one thing, but it can do so much or not. And again, the goal is not to be perfect. The goal is to be informed. Knowledge truly is power. Yeah, do better.
Just do better.
Do better. And questions and things like that. There's Skillerns. That's me, but no, that's you too. You right, I'm here.
We got 2 CCs.
I know, right?
We got Skillerns. She the original CC. we leave her to CC. Okay, we CC to you.
But actually, you have so many videos. There's so much out there. You go to IG, to her IG and just look it up. It's any everything. Little gems dropping. She be in the car, outside. Just listen and just get inspired and really, really, really take the time to be better and do better. And by the time this drops, we about to hit the top of the year. So why not?
Why not?
Why not go ahead and just make this your time to start the year out right? And I know I got some gems dropped on me, and I'm like, hey,
take the leap.
Exactly, taking the time, especially that every 7 days, which that's a lot, but definitely the once a quarter. I'm on the once a quarter, once a quarter, and really making sure that it's right and tight, repeatedly. So again, here at Epic Experiences, we encourage people, inspire communities, and what's more inspiring than getting your credit together? Get it together. 2024 is coming. Take the time to give yourself the access that you have a right to as a consumer.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so again, thank you so much.
Thank you.
This has been epic. Epic, always.
It's been epic.
If you don't know by now, check me out on Instagram, CC Skills. That's CeeSkillz. Oh, that rhymes. Look at that. CC Skills. Sinitra Skillerns is my Facebook. I am still one of the dinosaurs that have a Facebook. I'm on TikTok. It's CC Skills, just like Instagram. But if you want to see pictures of food and a couple of videos, but Instagram is the place. If you ever want to join me in this space, email me at epicexperience@gmail.com, and you too can join us here and talk about something epic. Take care, y'all. Thank you for listening. All right, thank you for coming. This was so good.